The prairie wind screamed across dead grass and frozen earth, tearing at Anna's threadbare shawl like it wanted to rip away the last shred of warmth she had left. 7 children trailed behind her, their hollow eyes staring at nothing, their feet dragging through dirt that seemed to stretch forever. The youngest couldn't even cry anymore, just whimpered like a dying animal. Anna pressed one hand against her swollen belly, feeling the child inside kick against her ribs, and with the other hand she clutched a satchel that held everything they owned in the world. But here's what you need to understand. 3 days ago, Anna had buried her wedding ring to buy bread that lasted exactly 1 meal. The bank had taken their homestead. The neighbors had offered pity, but no help. The county poorhouse was waiting with open arms and closed hearts. So Anna did the only thing left. She walked, mile after mile through land that didn't care if she lived or died, through cold that bit deeper than any knife, until her legs shook and her vision blurred, and the oldest boy, Samuel, barely 13, had to catch her when she stumbled. "Keep going, Ma," he whispered, and his voice cracked with a burden no child should carry. Then they crested a hill, and Anna saw it. A ranch, fenced pastures. Smoke rising from a chimney, cattle shifting in the twilight. It looked like salvation, but Anna had learned the hard way that salvation always came with a price. She stopped at the gate, her hand trembling on the rough wood, and for one long moment she considered turning back into the endless cold, because asking for help meant admitting she'd failed, meant proving everyone right who said a woman couldn't survive alone, meant... The ranch house door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, weathered, shoulders bent like he'd been carrying invisible weight for years. His dog bounded forward, then froze, growling low in its throat. The man's eyes swept over Anna and her 7 starving children, and his face revealed absolutely nothing. Anna straightened her back despite the pain shooting through her spine. She opened her mouth to speak, to beg, to explain. "We have nowhere else," she said. The wind died. The children huddled closer. And in the terrible silence that followed, Anna realized she'd just gambled everything on a stranger's mercy. The man stared at them for what felt like an eternity. His jaw worked like he was chewing words he didn't want to swallow. Finally, he nodded toward the barn. "Come inside," he said, his voice rough as gravel. "Get out of the wind." But here's the twist you didn't see coming. The man's name was Eli, and he hadn't spoken to another human being in 6 months because everyone he'd ever loved was buried in the ground behind his house. The barn smelled like hay and leather and something else. Loneliness so thick you could taste it. The children collapsed into the straw like their strings had been cut. The youngest one, barely 4 years old, just curled up and went silent. Anna eased herself down onto a bale, her hand pressed against her belly, her breath coming in sharp gasps. Eli returned with water and bread. Not much, just enough to keep them alive one more day. Samuel broke the bread into pieces, his hands shaking so badly the crumbs scattered everywhere. He gave portions to each of his siblings, counting carefully, making sure everyone got an equal share. Then he waited, watched them eat. Didn't take a bite himself until every other mouth had been fed. Eli saw it, that small act of sacrifice, and something behind his eyes cracked open, just a fraction, just enough to let in a sliver of light he'd been keeping out for years. "You got a name?" Eli asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Anna," she said. "These are my children." Eli nodded slowly, like he was making a decision that would change everything. "My name's Eli. This ranch has been empty too long. You can stay. For a while." But here's what Anna didn't know. Eli's sister had died at 16. His mother followed within a week. His father lasted through one winter before grief killed him. And Eli had been living in this house alone, keeping it exactly as it was the day they died, because if he changed anything, it would mean admitting they were really gone. Anna studied his face in the lamplight, saw the loneliness carved into every line, recognized it because she carried the same wound. "We'll work," Anna said quietly. "We won't be a burden." Eli turned away, his shoulders tense. "Get some sleep. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." That night, the barn held more life than it had in years. The children slept in nests of straw, the dog curled up among them. And Eli stood in the doorway, staring at the shapes breathing in the darkness, wondering what the hell he'd just agreed to, because letting people in meant he could lose them again, and losing them again would kill him. Morning came cold and sharp. Anna woke with her back screaming in pain, her children still sleeping around her like puppies. For one blessed moment she forgot where she was, forgot the bank, forgot the grave, forgot the endless walking. Then reality crashed back, and she remembered. They were alive because a stranger had shown mercy. She heard movement outside. Eli was already working, leading horses toward the pasture, moving with a rhythm that spoke of years lived alone. Anna watched him through the barn door crack, saw the way he moved like the land itself answered to him, and she felt something stir in her chest that she immediately buried. No, she couldn't afford that. Not hope, not trust, not anything. The children woke hungry. Anna hushed them gently, smoothing their hair, trying to make them presentable, even though their clothes were rags and their faces were smudged with dirt. Eli returned with milk and fresh bread, set it down without a word, started to leave. "Wait," Anna said. He stopped. "Show me what work needs doing," she said. "I can mend, cook, tend stock. I'll not sit idle." Eli turned slowly, studying her swollen belly, the exhaustion in her face. "You ought to be resting." "I've done my share with child before," Anna replied, her voice steady. "I'll not sit while you carry the weight alone." And here's the twist that changes everything. Eli had been praying for someone to share this burden for 3 years, but he'd stopped believing anyone would come because he'd stopped believing in prayer itself. He nodded once. "Come along then." The day unfolded in quiet labor. Anna washed plates at the pump, her hands turning red with cold. She showed the younger children how to stack wood properly. Samuel followed Eli to the corral, learning how to swing a rope, how to latch a gate, how to move like a man instead of a frightened boy. By dusk, the ranch felt different. Alive. Full of voices and footsteps and the creak of chores being done. Eli found himself stopping to watch Anna stoop to kiss her youngest child's forehead despite her weariness. Found himself noticing how Samuel stood taller under his guidance. Found himself feeling something he'd thought was dead. Purpose. That night Anna made stew from what little Eli had in his pantry. The smell filled the house, wound through every room, and Eli stood in the doorway breathing it in like it was oxygen itself. When they sat down to eat, the children's eyes went wide. Real food, a real table, a real roof overhead. For the first time in months, they looked like children instead of ghosts. But here's what neither Anna nor Eli knew. Tomorrow, everything would change again, because survival isn't a straight line. It's a series of choices that keep getting harder. Night pressed against the windows like it wanted in. The children dozed by the fire, their bellies finally full. Anna sat back in her chair, exhausted, her hand resting on the curve of her belly. The baby inside kicked hard, like it was angry at being born into this broken world. Eli gathered the bowls silently, moving to the pump to wash them. Anna started to stand, but he raised one hand. "Rest," he said quietly. "I'll see to it." Anna sank back down, and tears burned behind her eyes because it had been so long since anyone had told her to rest, since anyone had cared whether she survived the day or collapsed trying. She watched Eli work, saw the gentleness in how he moved, the care he took with simple tasks. It didn't match the hardness in his face, the walls he'd built around himself. When the children finally slept, scattered like kittens on the floor, Eli stepped outside. Anna followed after a moment, wrapping her shawl tight against the cold. They stood on the porch together, not speaking. The sky stretched endless above them, stars sharp as broken glass. "Do you ever get used to it?" Anna asked finally. "To what?" "The emptiness." Eli was silent for a long time. Then, "You don't get used to it. You just live inside it till it feels like the only thing left." Anna's throat tightened. She understood too well. The emptiness of losing everything, of watching your life crumble, of walking through days that felt like drowning. "You've carried it alone a long while," she whispered. Eli didn't answer, didn't need to. But here's the revelation that will break your heart. Anna's husband had made her promise something before he died, and she'd been carrying that promise like a stone in her chest ever since. "Maybe emptiness doesn't have to be the end," Anna said softly. Her words hung in the frozen air. Eli turned to look at her, really look, and for the first time she saw past his defenses to the raw ache underneath. "What did you promise him?" Eli asked suddenly. Anna flinched. "What?" "Your husband. I see it in your eyes. You're carrying something heavier than grief." Anna's hands trembled. She pressed them against her belly, steadying herself. When she spoke, her voice cracked. "I promised I'd keep them alive, no matter what, even if it meant—" She couldn't finish. "Meant what?" "Meant letting go of my pride, meant asking for help, meant—" She looked at him. "Meant trusting a stranger." And there it was, the truth laid bare between them. Eli's jaw worked. "Trust's a dangerous thing to give." "So is loneliness," Anna replied. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of coming snow. Inside, one of the children cried out in their sleep. Anna started to go to them, but Eli's hand caught her arm, gentle but firm. "I'll check," he said. And when he walked back into the house, leaving Anna alone on the porch, she realized something terrifying. She was starting to depend on him, which meant she had something new to lose. 3 days later, the storm hit. Snow came down like God was emptying heaven's closets. Within hours, drifts buried the fence lines. The wind howled like a living thing. The world disappeared into white. The children turned the storm into an adventure at first, building forts from quilts, playing games, pressing their faces to the windows. But by the second day, the cabin fever set in. The youngest ones got restless. The older ones got quiet in that dangerous way that meant they were thinking too hard. Anna watched her strength drain hour by hour. The baby inside her pressed heavy, stealing her breath. She couldn't hide the pain that shot through her back, couldn't mask the way her hands shook when she tried to stand. Eli saw it all, didn't say a word, just took over more of the work, shoveling paths through drifts taller than his head, breaking ice on the water troughs, feeding cattle in conditions that could kill a man. On the second night, Anna found him by the fire long after everyone else had gone to bed. He sat with his elbows on his knees, staring into the flames like they held answers. "You keep watch like the storm might steal the house," Anna said softly. Eli glanced at her. "Storms take more than houses." Anna eased herself into the chair across from him, her belly tight with contractions that weren't quite labor yet, just warnings. "Tell me." And so Eli did. He told her about the fever that came fast and mean, about his sister, just 16, all laughter and wild hair, dead within 3 days, about his mother following her within a week, about his father lasting through winter but dying of grief by spring. "I buried them all with these hands," Eli said, his voice raw. "Kept the ranch because letting it go meant admitting they were gone. But the years got quieter. the house emptier, till I couldn't tell if I was keeping their memory alive or just letting silence eat me. Anna reached across the space between them, her hand finding his. His fingers twitched like he'd forgotten what human touch felt like. "Silence doesn't keep the dead," Anna whispered. "Only the living." But here's the twist that changes everything. While they were talking, Samuel had been awake in the next room, listening to every word, and what he heard would make him do something unforgivable. The storm broke on the third day. The world emerged white and silent, the sun reflecting off snow so bright it hurt to look at. Eli hitched the team at dawn, breaking trails from barn to pasture, his breath steaming in the frozen air. Samuel appeared beside him, determination burning in his young face. "Let me help," the boy said. Eli studied him, saw the man trying to break through the boy's thin frame. "You sure?" "Yes, sir." They worked side by side for hours. Samuel's hands went raw from the rope and cold, but he never complained, never faltered, just kept pushing, kept trying, kept proving himself. At the corral fence, Eli finally spoke. "You've got grit, boy." Samuel's eyes shone. "I'll do whatever it takes. I have to." And here's what Samuel couldn't say. He'd heard Eli's story about losing his family, had seen how Eli looked at his mother, had started to hope that maybe, just maybe, they could build something here that wouldn't be ripped away. "No child ought to think that way," Eli said quietly, his hand settling on Samuel's shoulder. "Work's for growing into, not for wearing yourself down." "Ma needs me," Samuel said, his voice breaking. "They all need me." Eli's chest tightened because he recognized that burden, had carried it himself, had let it crush him into the shape he was now. "Listen to me," Eli said. "You're allowed to be a boy. You hear me? You don't have to be the man yet." Samuel swallowed hard, nodded, but Eli could see it didn't take. The boy had already decided who he had to be. That evening, while Anna taught the girls to knead bread and the younger children played by the stove, Eli stood in the doorway watching. The house smelled of yeast and wood smoke and life, and it settled into his bones like it belonged there. Anna looked up, caught his gaze, smiled faintly. This house was waiting for noise. Eli couldn't answer, could only tip his hat and step back outside before the tightness in his throat turned into something he couldn't control. But here's what none of them knew. Someone was watching the ranch from the ridge a mile away, and that someone had plans for Anna and her children that would tear everything apart. That night, after the children settled, Anna found Eli on the porch with his pipe. She lowered herself onto the step beside him, her shawl pulled close, and for a long time they just listened to the wind. "Samuel thinks he has to be the man now," Anna said finally. "He thinks it all falls to him." Eli drew on his pipe, the ember flaring. "He's too young for that." "I know, but grief doesn't wait till you're ready." The words hit Eli like a fist. He stared into the dark, remembering his own boyhood. The weight pressed onto his shoulders when his brother died in the war, when the fever took his sister, when his parents followed. "He needs someone to show him that carrying doesn't have to mean breaking," Anna said softly. Eli turned to her, meeting her eyes in the starlight. Something passed between them. Recognition, understanding, maybe something more dangerous. "I'll try," he said. But before Anna could respond, Samuel appeared in the doorway, his face pale, his voice tight. "Ma," he said, "something's wrong with the baby." Anna gasped, her hand flying to her belly. Pain shot through her, sharp and sudden, stealing her breath. "It's early," she managed. "Too early." Eli was moving before conscious thought took over. He scooped Anna up like she weighed nothing, carried her inside, barked orders at Samuel to boil water, to fetch towels, to keep the younger children away. The hours that followed were agony. Anna's screams filled the house. The children huddled in the next room, terrified. Eli moved like the house itself depended on him, steady, certain, even when doubt clawed at his chest. "You're strong," he told Anna, his voice low and fierce. "Stronger than anyone I've known. You'll see this through." But here's the twist. The baby wasn't coming right. Something was wrong. And Eli had to make a choice between saving the child or saving Anna. And he had exactly 3 seconds to decide. He chose Anna. The baby came in a rush of blood and screaming, small and red and barely breathing. For one terrible moment, silence filled the room. Eli held the tiny body, rubbing its back, breathing into its face, praying to a God he'd stopped believing in years ago. Then the baby gasped, cried, lived. Anna collapsed back, tears streaming, her arms reaching for the child. The moment she pressed the baby to her chest, the room seemed to exhale as one. Eli stepped back, his hands shaking, his chest heaving. The children crowded close, marveling at the tiny life. And Eli stood there feeling something break open inside him, something raw and terrifying and impossibly alive. "She's here," Anna whispered, looking up at him. "We made it." But neither of them saw Samuel slip out the back door into the night or the figure waiting for him at the edge of the property line. The baby thrived. Her cries filled the house with music no one expected to hear. The children took turns holding her, their faces soft with wonder. Anna moved slowly, healing, but her eyes carried new light. Eli found himself lingering near the house more often, listening for the baby's cry, making excuses to check on them. At night, he carved small wooden toys for the children, pretending it meant nothing when Samuel caught him at it. Life settled into a rhythm that felt almost like normal, almost like family. Then came the evening that shattered everything. Anna stepped onto the porch, the baby in her arms, and watched Eli come in from the pasture. The sun painted everything gold. Peace hung in the air like a promise. "You've given us more than shelter," Anna said softly. Eli stopped at the foot of the steps. "I've only done what was needed." "No," Anna said. "You gave us a chance to belong again. That's more than most men would have done." The baby fussed. Eli's eyes drifted to the small bundle, something tender flickering there before he could hide it. "I don't know much about belonging anymore," he said quietly. Anna stepped closer. "Maybe you don't have to know it. Maybe you just have to let it come." Her words settled between them, heavy with meaning. Eli felt it like the first break of thaw. Something new, something dangerous, something alive. That night, as Anna mended by the fire and Eli sharpened tools at the table, she spoke without looking up. "Samuel thinks of you as more than a neighbor. He looks at you like a father." Eli's hands stilled, his breath caught. Anna lifted her eyes then. "And I see what you carry. You've known loss enough to drown a man, yet here you stand, still giving." The firelight wavered between them. Eli looked at her, truly looked, and for the first time let himself see what had grown in the silence. Trust, warmth, something he didn't have a name for yet. But before either could speak again, the door burst open. Samuel stood there, blood running from his nose, his shirt torn, terror in his eyes. "He's coming," the boy gasped. "Ma's brother-in-law. I tried to warn him away, tried to tell him you were ours now. But he's coming, and he's bringing the law, and—" "Slow down," Eli said, his voice steady even as his pulse hammered. "What happened?" And here's the twist that changes everything. Samuel had been sneaking into town for weeks, sending letters to Anna's dead husband's family, begging them to recognize the marriage between Anna and Eli so the children would be protected under law. But the brother-in-law had other plans. He rode in hard the next afternoon, dust billowing, 2 men with badges flanking him. The children scattered like birds, hiding behind Anna's skirts. Eli stepped onto the porch, his face carved from stone. The brother-in-law dismounted, his mouth twisted with disgust. "Anna, you've made a shame of yourself and these children." Anna stepped forward, her back straight despite the trembling in her knees. "This is my home now." "Your home," he laughed, bitter and sharp. "With a rancher who takes in strays, with no marriage bond, no decency, you'll come with me. The children will be raised proper." Eli moved then, strode across the yard until he stood between Anna and the riders, his presence filling the space like a physical wall. "You'll not take them," Eli said, his voice low and steady. "Not while I draw breath." The brother-in-law sneered. "You think this place can hide them? The law sides with blood." "Blood don't make a father," Eli said. "A home does." One of the lawmen shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, is this true? You're living here without propriety?" Anna's chest heaved. This was the moment, the choice that would define everything. She could deny it, could claim some fiction, could protect herself. Instead, she stepped to Eli's side and took his hand. "This man saved our lives," Anna said clearly. "He's given us shelter, safety, and kindness when the world gave us nothing. If you call that improper, then your sense of decency is broken." The brother-in-law's face darkened. "Then I'll have no choice but to—" "To what?" Eli interrupted. "Take children from the only stable home they've known in months. Tear them from someone who actually cares whether they live or die." The law says nothing about a man helping a neighbor in need," Eli said. His hand tightened on Anna's. "But if it's propriety you want, then here's some. Anna and I will marry. Today. Right now. And these children will be mine by law as much as they are by choice." Silence crashed over the yard like thunder. Anna's breath caught. The children froze. Even the horses went still. Eli turned to Anna, his eyes searching hers. "If you'll have me." And here's the moment that breaks everything open. Anna realized Eli had just proposed marriage not out of love, but out of strategy, and she had exactly 3 seconds to decide if she could live with that. She looked into his eyes, saw past the walls to the man beneath, saw the loneliness, the loss, the desperate hope he was too proud to name. "Yes," Anna whispered. "I'll have you." The lawman who'd been silent finally spoke up. "You got a preacher nearby?" "Town's got one," Eli said, not taking his eyes off Anna. "Then let's go make it legal," the lawman said, clearly relieved to have found a solution that didn't involve tearing children from their mother. The brother-in-law spat on the ground, but he was outmaneuvered, and he knew it. He swung into his saddle, his face twisted with fury. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Yes," Eli said quietly. "It is." They rode away, dust swirling. The children erupted into chaos, crying, laughing, asking 1,000 questions. But Anna just stood there, staring at Eli, wondering what the hell she'd just agreed to. A marriage of convenience, a partnership built on survival, not love. But as Eli's hand stayed wrapped around hers, warm and solid and real, Anna wondered if maybe that was enough. If maybe that was more than she'd dared to hope for. They married 3 days later in town, in front of a preacher who'd seen stranger things, but not by much. The children stood as witnesses, Samuel tall and proud, the younger ones whispering nervously. Anna wore the same worn dress she'd arrived in because it was all she had. Eli spoke his vows clearly, his voice steady, his eyes never leaving hers. When he slipped a simple silver ring onto her finger, his mother's ring, he admitted later. Anna's throat closed with emotion she couldn't name. The ride back to the ranch was quiet. The children dozed in the wagon bed, exhausted from the day. Anna sat beside Eli on the bench, their shoulders touching with every bump in the road. "Thank you," Anna said finally. "For what?" "For," she gestured helplessly. "All of it." Eli was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Wasn't just for you." Anna turned to him, surprised. "That house was dying," Eli continued, his eyes on the road. "I was dying. You and your children. You brought it back to life. So maybe I'm the one who should be thanking you." Tears burned Anna's eyes, but she blinked them back. This marriage might have started as strategy, as survival, but something real was growing between them. Fragile, tentative, but undeniably alive. When they reached the ranch, Eli helped her down from the wagon, his hands lingering on her waist longer than necessary. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world fell away. Then the children scrambled down, breaking the spell, and life resumed its normal chaos. That night, after the children were asleep, Anna and Eli stood on the porch together. Married now, bound by law and necessity, and something neither had the courage to name yet. "Where do I sleep?" Anna asked quietly. Eli's jaw worked. "You can have the bedroom. I'll take the barn." "Eli, it's proper," he said. "For now." Anna nodded, understanding what he wasn't saying. This marriage might be legal, but it wasn't real yet. Not in the ways that mattered. But as she lay in bed that night, her children safe around her, a ring on her finger she'd never expected to wear again, Anna felt something stir in her chest. Hope. Dangerous, terrifying hope. And in the barn, Eli lay awake staring at the rafters, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life, or the best decision he'd ever stumbled into. Spring came with mud and green shoots and days that stretched longer. The children threw themselves into chores with new energy, like they finally believed this place would last. Samuel worked beside Eli from dawn to dusk, absorbing everything the older man could teach him. The girls helped Anna with cooking and mending. Even the youngest ones found purpose, gathering eggs and feeding chickens. The ranch transformed. What had been one man's lonely burden became a family's shared work. Fences got mended, fields got planted. The house rang with laughter and arguments and life. But the marriage remained, unconsummated, polite, careful. Eli and Anna moved around each other like dancers who hadn't learned the steps yet. They shared meals, shared responsibilities, shared the weight of raising 7 children. But they didn't share a bed, didn't share the deeper intimacies that would make this marriage real. Anna told herself it was enough, that she'd asked for survival, not love, and she'd gotten exactly what she'd bargained for. But then one evening, as she was washing dishes at the pump, Eli came up behind her. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "You're tired," he said softly. "I'm fine." "Anna." His hand settled on her shoulder, gentle but firm. "Let me help." She turned to face him, and suddenly they were inches apart, his eyes searching hers in the fading light. The air between them crackled with something unspoken. "Why did you really propose?" Anna whispered. "Not for the brother-in-law, not for the law. Why?" Eli's jaw worked. For a long moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Because the thought of you leaving made me realize I'd been dead inside for 3 years, and you'd brought me back to life. And I'd rather have you as my wife in name only than not have you at all." Anna's breath caught, her heart hammered. "Eli, I'm not asking for more than you can give," he said quickly. "This marriage can be whatever you need it to be. I won't—" Anna kissed him. It was clumsy, unpracticed, desperate. Her hands fisted in his shirt. His arms came around her, pulling her close. The kiss deepened, years of loneliness pouring into it from both sides. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Eli rested his forehead against hers. "I think," Anna whispered, I think I'm ready for this marriage to be real. But here's the twist neither of them saw coming. The brother-in-law hadn't given up, and his next move would threaten not just the marriage, but the ranch itself. The letter arrived a week later. Legal documents claiming that Anna's late husband had debts, significant debts, and as his widow, Anna was responsible. The brother-in-law demanded payment or he'd seize the ranch to cover the debt. It was a lie, a manipulation, but it was legal enough to be dangerous. Eli read the documents at the kitchen table, his face carved from stone. Anna stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder, reading over his arm. "It's not true," she said. "My husband never borrowed that kind of money. This is strategy," Eli finished. "He can't take the children, so he's going after the land." Samuel burst into the room, his eyes wild. "We can fight it. We can prove he's lying." "With what?" Anna asked, her voice breaking. "We have no records, no proof, just our word against his." Eli stood slowly, his chair scraping the floor. He walked to the window, stared out at the land he'd worked his entire life, the land his father had broken his back for, the land that held every memory of his family. "How much does he claim we owe?" Eli asked quietly. Anna checked the documents. $5,000. An impossible sum, more money than the ranch would earn in 5 years. "We could sell the cattle," Samuel suggested desperately. "Sell everything." "It wouldn't be enough," Eli said. "Not even close." Silence filled the kitchen. The younger children, sensing the tension, huddled together. The baby fussed in Anna's arms. Anna felt her world tilting again. She'd finally found safety, found hope, found something that felt like home, and now it was being ripped away. Again. "There has to be something," she whispered. Eli turned from the window, his eyes meeting hers across the room. "There is." "What?" "I could sell the ranch," he said. "Pay the debt, start over somewhere else." "No," Anna said immediately. "This is your home, your family's legacy. I won't let you—" "You didn't let me do anything," Eli interrupted gently. "This is my choice. Eli, please. Without you and these children, this place is just buildings and fences. It's you that made it a home again. So if I have to choose between the land and the family, I choose the family. Every time." Anna's eyes filled with tears. Samuel stood taller, his jaw set. The children gathered closer, sensing something important was happening. But here's the final twist that saves everything. The lawman who'd been present at the brother-in-law's first visit had been doing some digging, and what he'd found would change everything. 2 days before Eli was set to sign the papers selling the ranch, the lawman rode up to the house. He dismounted slowly, his face serious. "Ma'am, sir," he said, tipping his hat. "I've got news." They gathered on the porch, the children crowding around. "I did some checking on those debts," the lawman said. "Turns out Anna's late husband never borrowed that money. The brother-in-law forged the documents. I found the real records in the county office." Anna gasped. Eli's hands curled into fists. "He was betting you wouldn't have the resources to fight it," the lawman continued. "That you'd just pay to avoid trouble. But I've got proof of the forgery. He'll be arrested. The debt is void." For a moment, no one moved. Then Samuel let out a whoop. The children erupted into cheers. Anna sagged against Eli, tears streaming down her face. "It's over," she whispered. "It's really over." Eli wrapped his arms around her, holding her close, his own eyes bright. "You're safe now, all of you, for good." The lawman cleared his throat. "There's one more thing. The brother-in-law. He won't be bothering you again. He's facing charges. And I made sure the judge knows about how you took this family in, gave them a home. You've got friends in town now, Eli, people who see what you did." After the lawman left, the family stood together on the porch, watching the sun set over the prairie. The land stretched endless and golden, and for the first time it felt like it truly belonged to them, all of them. That night, Anna and Eli finally shared the bedroom, not out of obligation or strategy, but out of choice, out of love that had grown slow and steady, rooted deep as the cottonwoods. They lay together in the darkness, her head on his chest, his hand stroking her hair. "I never thought I'd feel this again," Anna whispered. "Safe, whole, home." "Neither did I," Eli said. "But you taught me something." "What?" "That emptiness doesn't have to be forever. That broken people can heal. That family isn't just blood, it's choice." Anna lifted her head to look at him. "I love you." The words hung in the air, precious and rare. Eli's hand came up to cup her face. "I love you too. You and every one of those children. You're mine now. All of you." They kissed, and this time it wasn't desperate or hurried. It was slow, deliberate, full of promise. Outside, the prairie wind whispered through the cottonwoods. The cattle lowed soft in the distance. The children slept safe in their beds. And in that ranch house that had once known only silence and loss, love had taken root and grown strong. Summer blazed hot and bright. The children ran barefoot through the yard, their laughter ringing across the fields. The crops came in better than expected. The cattle fattened. The ranch thrived in ways it never had when Eli worked it alone. Anna and Eli moved together like they'd been partners for decades instead of months. She anticipated his needs. He anticipated hers. The marriage that had started as strategy had become something deeper, richer, truer than either had dared to hope for. Samuel grew taller, filling out with good food and hard work. Eli taught him everything: how to read the weather, how to gentle a horse, how to be a man without losing his kindness. The girls learned from Anna how to keep a house, how to tend a garden, how to be strong without losing their softness. And the baby, now several months old, became the center of everyone's world. She smiled for the first time during a thunderstorm, as if she was laughing at the sky itself. One evening, as Eli and Anna sat on the porch watching the sunset, she said quietly, "We did it." "Did what?" "Survived, built something real, became a family." Eli's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. "You did it. You had the courage to walk through that gate and ask for help. Everything that came after started with that choice." Anna leaned her head against his shoulder. "No, we did it together. That's what family is, choosing each other, day after day, even when it's hard." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to emerge, one by one, painting the sky with light. The prairie stretched endless around them, no longer empty but full, full of possibility, full of hope, full of the life they'd built together from nothing but determination and faith. If you enjoyed this story of resilience, redemption, and the family we choose for ourselves, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have had the courage to walk through that gate? What would you have done in Anna's place? This is a story about how sometimes our greatest strengths emerge in our darkest moments, and how the people we least expect can become the family we've been searching for all along. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.